Hello and welcome to your favorite podcast. Sit, relax, and let's talk. This is yours truly, Mark Rivera. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, it is a pleasure to be able to think that I'm talking to each and every one of you in person, but you're just listening, and I really appreciate that. We all appreciate that. This is to be honest, this is a podcast. It's a team thing. It's a team effort. It's not just about me. It's not just about what I'm saying and all this stuff, but it's kind of become kind of like a community thing. It's beautiful. I'm loving it. Every single episode, every single sleepless night of working on this and everything else, but it's amazing. So again, thank you so much to all those here in the United States and to all those listening around the world. Appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time and listening to this podcast. I know you don't know me, maybe at this point, maybe you kind of do, and I really appreciate it from all the different points of the world that are tuning in, listening to this. It's such a wonderful pleasure to be able to share this experience with you. Now, without further ado, let's continue on with today's podcast episode. And for today, we have, as always, another amazing, wonderful guest. Today we have Melissa Navarro. Hello, Melissa. Yes. Hello. How are you? How are you doing? Nighttime for us tonight. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Had coffee, so I'm excited about that.
That is wonderful. Now, did you take black coffee, or what's your type of creamer? What kind of creamer you put on it?
Honestly, I just use soy milk, to be honest.
Soy milk. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely got to try that sometime. See what that tastes like.
Yeah. How are you doing tonight?
You know what? I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for asking. It's Sunday. And it's beautiful, kind of preparing, trying to get the week started, just kind of go from there. And it's awesome. Thank you so much. We've been talking for a couple of days, trying to set up the date to be able to get this episode going. And thank you so much for taking your time, your valuable time, and to do this episode. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. So Melissa, so let's talk a little bit. So awesome. So obviously we know each other because we are from the same, going to the same university. We're taking the same classes. We've been in a couple of classes together, and it's kind of like at this point where now this is going on, right? We got this podcast, we got that counseling club going on. We got a lot of things going on, right? So it's awesome to be able to have you here. What has been your experience so far at CBU?
Yeah, it's honestly been a really good experience. Originally, like my reason for wanting to go to CBU was to be able to get that like faith integration idea into what I was going to do. And that's been really cool, just like being able to have that incorporated into the lessons, as well as, just the environment in itself. Like I've noticed that, everyone has always been so welcoming. And like, it's really helped me build relationships with many individuals that I'm entirely grateful for.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me start a little bit. So what was your undergrad? What did you do prior?
So undergrad, I also went to CBU, and I got my bachelor's in psychology. So also psychology, yeah.
Nice. Wow. So okay, so you've been kind of heading in the same direction since undergrad and at CBU, which is awesome. What made you choose? I think you explained a little bit about, but what else did you choose between CBU and what other universities were you kind of thinking about?
Just other local universities, like in Riverside area. I originally had already been on campus at CBU because my brother attended CBU as well.
Okay.
So I stepped into CBU. I think I was in high school. And I loved like the environment again itself. Like I knew that's kind of like where I wanted to go. And so, yeah.
That is so awesome. Nice. So it's kind of like a family tradition now.
Yeah, sort of,
CBU, right? That's awesome. That's so cool. Wonderful. I mean, it is. And it's such a, seriously, like the environment is just amazing. Of course, because it's God-centered, one, right? But there's just like this type of like atmosphere that's like, it's so easy to talk to almost, let's say almost, because it's not everybody, there's I'm not going to put any fingers, but there's a couple
Yeah.
people it's hard to talk to, you know?
Yeah.
But most everybody, it's just so easy and so beautiful to talk to, you know, and especially with such like experience that like some of these professors and some of these, you know, up to like doctor level, you know, their experience and all the stuff that they have and the things that they're able to share, right? It just feels so like, you know, it's like, man, it's so valuable.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And kind of with that, kind of like with this, like the experience that I think we could talk about, we could share is that like in this counseling program, this counseling psychology program, I feel like it feels honestly, I have nothing to compare it to, you know, because of course this is my first time being in a master's program, so I have nothing to compare it to. But I'm like, I don't know. I just think about it, I'm like how it feels like they really want to help you succeed, you know?
Yeah.
That's something that I really see. What do you think about that?
I agree 100%. And I think that's another like I don't know, I guess I'm on the same boat where it's like I can't really compare it to somewhere else because I've only attended CBU, but I feel like, in other schools, it might be different. And I've seen like the care that like the professors have, where it's like they will like reach out to you, check in and stuff like that. And I think that's one of the like very unique things about CBU, where the professors also, are caring enough to like reach out to students and check in with
Mhm.
them, so that's been something very unique that like I've noticed.
Yeah. So now let's get a little personal. So let's say, what is an example of like a time when you felt a little, like a little, uh, you were going through a little bit of trouble or something where you felt like you needed some help, where you could say like, oh, a professor kind of was there for you. I know there's probably like
Mhm.
a lot of them, but just kind of what would be something that stands out to you?
Yeah, I guess let's see. Just like on a personal level, I guess we can go back to undergrad. So I had a dog that like I had since I was like 7 years old.
Mhm.
And then he passed away during like my undergrad. And at that time, like it took me quite a while to like emotionally kind of heal from that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this class, it was a research class where like there's a lot of it was like a lot of work, to be honest. It was a class
Okay.
that I was struggling a lot in because it's like research, and I'm like, I don't know research, like. But I reached out to the professor, and I just let her know, like, hey, like I'm going through a really hard time.
Yeah.
And then I kind of explained to her the situation, and she was very like understanding, very graceful, as in like, take your time. And when you come back to school, because I did like miss school for a few days, she
Mhm.
said, you can come talk to me and then we could figure out like how to do the assignments and all that. And I thought that was like really like, touched heart because I was like, oh, like she genuinely cared.
Yeah, that's very touching. I'm so sorry to hear about that loss. It's sometimes just pets can become so endearing, it's like part of the family. So
Yeah.
so sorry to hear that. But I mean, thank you for sharing that experience, that to be able to feel that like genuine support. Because there's a
Hmm.
difference, right, between like you feel supported, cool,
Yeah.
but then that genuine support, kind of like where you feel like it comes like from the heart, where it goes beyond just, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. No, it's like, okay, how can I help you? You know what? Let's talk
Exactly.
about it. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it. How are you feeling? It's like, oh, like you
Exactly.
care.
Yeah. I was like, wow, you actually care about me.
Which is crazy, right? Like as students, you wouldn't think like that would be something like you would like process, you would think about like, oh my God, like you actually care for me. I mean, like obviously these professors, these teachers, from like all of our years from high school and all that, they care to a
Mhm.
certain level, they
A
care,
certain level. Yeah.
yeah, to a certain level, right? Oh my God. Experience is just running through my head right now. I'm like, oh, high school. Well,
Yeah.
but they care, at times, and then like getting to this level now of like grad school, getting to this level of like the undergrad and like at the school, um kind of like the environment, it's like it stays the same for you.
Hmm.
What would you say, did the environment change anything from your undergrad at CBU to now running your master's and running your grad program now at CBU? Did anything change?
I don't think nothing too drastic. I would say like the main thing, which has been something that like I'm like entirely like thankful for too is that
Mhm.
like in the master's program, obviously like you have a lot of the same classes with the same people. And because of that, I've gotten to know more people like on a deeper level, which I didn't get to really experience in undergrad because it's like
Uh-huh.
kind of mixed. Like, you can be from a different major and still have like a psych class. So it was kind of hard, like harder that way. But now that it's like everyone's kind of in the same classes, like you start to see familiar faces. And then, you kind of start building that relationship with people. And so that's like the big change is what I notice. It's like seeing the same people and then like talking to them and building that relationship with them. So as far as building relationship in general, like has been a lot easier now in the master's program versus undergrad for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and I really agree with you on that. I think that is part of like what this kind of this master's program and then like everything that we're doing, even especially right now as we're all going through, most of us, at this point are going through in our cohort going through our practicums, and we have like we have our placements and our sites where we're doing already our we're doing our practice, we're doing all that stuff, right? Our internship. But
Mhm.
yeah, I do. When you said that, I think about it, I'm like, you're right. Like,
Yeah.
like you see some of the same faces over and over again. Finally,
Mhm.
they kind of start like matching. Cause I remember, yeah, like I would say like a couple, probably like, yeah, 4 or 5 semesters ago. It's like so many faces, like all over the place. You can't really see. But like now it's like a little bit more like, no, like I know, I know your name too,
Yeah, and it's like I don't even necessarily have to talk to you to know your name because I have you like in all the other classes. So it's like I feel like I already know you. Yeah.
just like a simple, right? You just do a little
Yeah.
simple wave and like, oh yeah, what's up? Well, it's been a long
Mhm.
time. Even though probably we've never talked. And
Exactly.
I think that's one of the parts that's been so it's been so beautiful and it's been so amazing, kind of like in creating and starting this counseling club at CBU, the first, there
Yeah.
that I know of. Everybody say, right? It's awesome. Like we're creating it together. Beautiful. But like also like doing this podcast, like talking to people. It's so easy to talk to, to talk to fellow classmates. Be like, hey, listen, you kind of know what's going on. Like, hey, do you mind? Do you want to come on sometime? Or,
Mhm.
do you want to sign up and start this counseling club and stuff? And everybody's just so positive and everybody's just so like, yeah, they're like, I might not have time. I hope they don't hear this, but I might not have time, but let me just sign up anyways. Just put my name there, I'll try to make it, but it's amazing. I think that community, right? That to me is the biggest thing that I like keep
Mhm.
pushing is that community that we're building, that community. Because to be honest, it's like we kind of become a little bit like as we start going into that part of the this podcast, the more and the deeper we start getting into like the actual work, into like
Mhm.
dealing with people's problems and their experiences and being there with them. It kind of detaches us a little bit from a little bit of reality,
Yeah.
detaches us a little bit from social, like because this is like our a big chunk of our lives. This is where we spend like most of our time, no
Mhm.
matter like what we have, what we're doing. But this is like in on a personal level, but this takes a big part of our lives. So what do you what do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I it's like going to school 2 days a week, doing my practicum site 2 days a week. But for some reason, I'm just like, I feel like I have no time. And I think it's just like the mental thing too of like seeing clients, like stuff like that. Like it really does fill up a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the part that makes sense. But again, like it really doesn't make sense. Like, how do we live a life? Like, how do we live a life? Like, even for me, right? I'm married and I have like 2 daughters and I have 2 baby, right? How do I make time for it? Honestly, I don't know.
Hmm.
I really
Oh,
don't know.
that's a lot.
All I know is that God somehow helps me do it.
Hmm.
Somehow, I don't know how, but somehow, and on top of that, like, kind of doing this and doing that, and, just trying to do things because I feel like, that's not like we all have like a calling, we all have something special. And I'm getting to meet so many special people like you, Melissa, you know, with so many gifts, with so many talents that God has given us, that like it's like that's like, why not use it? You know, it's like, why do we just want to have it and not put it to practice?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like for yourself. So kind of with using that and jumping into the topic. So where is your now your your practicum site? Where right now are you doing your internship?
So I am doing it at Faiths. And basically with that, we provide like therapy services to justice involved individuals like in the jail setting.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay. Justice involved individuals in the what setting you said?
And like in the jail setting.
In the jail setting.
Yes.
Okay. On interesting. Now that's definitely for me personally, you know, like when you come to this, especially starting off, you know, that's not where you think that you would go, you know, kind of like to, you know, kind of put to work, put to practice and to
Yeah.
do that hands-on, right? The hands-on
Yeah.
training. It seems honestly like a whole nother level. But please, you know, share a little bit, kind of how is that experience going for you? What are you
Yes.
experiencing?
Yeah. So kind of like you were saying too, like it's not something that I originally saw myself getting into. I remember that like the school sent out an email that of sites that were taking applications already. And I saw that name as part of the email and like that really stuck out to me. I started looking into it and I was like, wow, like I think I really want to do this, you know? Like I sat on it for a few days. I prayed about it because I was like, I this is like really standing out to me, you know, I just want to make sure that it's right. And then, so yeah, my experience has been amazing, to be honest. Like,
Hmm.
I have been looking forward to what I'm doing when I'm going to the site, even though I have to wake up early. You know, that part kind of sucks, but but I'm like, you know what? I love it. So
How
it
early? How early? Let's see.
so okay, I had to be there at 6:30 a.m. So I wake up at 5 a.m.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
That
it's
is
a
it.
bit of a struggle, you know, but I'm surviving. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, I think like the rewarding thing of it is just seeing like the response that we get from clients on an emotional level, you know, just like being that one person that's able to sit with them and like hear them out and listen to them when that's something that they've probably never experienced in their life. And seeing their reaction, you know, like being able to sit in a room and like have that experience of being heard, I think is like the most rewarding feeling. And that's what makes me like love it 100 times more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is so, that stands out so much when you said that. Something that they never get, something that
Hmm.
they possibly would never get if it wasn't for, you know, your time there and for your fellow, you know, therapists that are there as well. That if it wasn't for your group, like it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
That's amazing because it is very easy for all of us, even for myself, right, to be a little biased,
Hmm.
to be a little, you know, just kind of, oh no, yeah, you know, you just kind of like just go with that mindset. And but as we are going through personally this experience of going through as, you know, this transition from becoming like students and now we're like still students, but now we're actually like now we're actual clinical,
Yeah.
you know, counselors. So now we're like, okay, here you go. You get
Hmm.
to work, hands-on training. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay, right? And then kind of like when you talk about that where you're at, it's like seeing it from that perspective. That is very it's interesting, but it's actually I think it's very important for not just us that aren't working there, but for
Hmm.
everybody else who's out there listening and for it to understand that part.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard, do you think, for people to be able to even like care or to like even, you know, want to listen to what's going on like in personally for um people that are, you know, kind of in there in the justice involved individuals?
Hmm. So for them, I feel like a lot of it just comes down to family history, where, you know, family wasn't always present, and because of that, like they never actually had that opportunity to be heard. A lot of the individuals that I see struggle with like substance use and stuff like that. Um, and because of that, like I feel like they're just, trying to fulfill that need of like belonging somewhere. And when you don't have that with family, you kind of start turning to other things. And so I feel, that it just really all comes down to like family history. And for most people, like I would say the same as well. Like if you haven't been heard out when you were a child, or a teenager and stuff like that, like you don't really also know how to hear out other people.
Wow, that is so deep. So from what you're saying is that from what you're experiencing, what you're listening to, a lot of the the problems and a lot of kind of like the base from where everything kind of started being created, you say would come from those experiences, huh?
Yeah, I would say it comes from childhood. I think that has like a huge chunk onto, how like a certain person, their characteristics that they have later on and stuff.
It just kind of just carries over and carries over.
Yeah. Especially like in that aspect of, having family there for you or not having family there for you. Like eventually it just becomes a norm for you where it's like, well, I don't have to tell anyone my feelings because no one ever heard me out back then.
Yeah,
So what's the point now? And that I feel like that's heavy because we all have stuff that we go through,
yeah.
and not being able to have someone to talk about, I think that just kind of builds up, like in other words, like your cup starts to overflow. And what happens then?
Hmm. Yeah. It starts overflowing and then it just keeps going,
hmm
it's amazing. So with the group there and with the therapist there, what do you feel, what do you see that these individuals kind of what do you bring to them? I mean, besides having somebody to listen to them, but what else happens with these individuals?
Yeah, I think just the whole empathy, in general, being able to meet them where they're at, and not only, be like, yeah, like I'm sorry that happened to you, but be able to really like put myself in their shoes,
Hmm.
kind of like sit right beside them, and offer that like empathy for them, a level of understanding. Because with this population, I think it's very easy for them to be stigmatized, especially when it comes down to substance use. It's like,
Hmm.
well, no, they kind of chose that upon themselves. I feel like is the most like response that society has. And so I think I offer like that empathy of being able to be there from a level of understanding with them.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing, and I agree. I think it is kind of like being able to provide them kind of like with a resource, something that kind of seems like it's just doesn't even really matter anymore because it's like it's I'm not gonna get it. I've already like crossed the line. I'm already like on the other side. Society doesn't see me, doesn't accept me. So
Yeah.
why? Like why? And then it's beautiful to be able to to be going through that experience. I think to be able to kind of be for us other therapists who are in kind of like completely different places, to
hmm
be able to be that inside voice, to be able to let us know and to kind of keep us aware of like what's going on. Because I mean, by hearing kind of like where everybody's at, kind of where their sites are at, where they're we're all doing our training hours,
Yeah.
kind of like getting that experience. It is amazing just to listen to and hear it. Like it's so like when I say random, it's just because it's just like from like this to like this, it's just like all over the place,
Yeah.
because like the need is a lot, you know, the need is a lot. So for you kind of being in that place, what's been something that you've learned personally, or that's changed about yourself?
I think what's changed about myself is overall just I think having a more of an understanding when it comes down to substance use.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't know. For me personally, like when I hear their stories, it just makes sense to me why they use. And I think that's something that if I weren't in this site, like I don't know what my experience would have been like if I was
Mhm.
working with individuals who had substance use. Um, personally, like my dad in the past had struggled with substance use. And so I feel like I never really understood, and like it didn't always make sense to me. It's just kind of like, well, why, like
Hmm.
basic question, why? And now like going through that, I think now I see it more as like, well, there was something missing where you felt like you needed the substance. And I feel like I don't know, like it's provided a deeper emotional like understanding for me as far as substance use in general. I think that's been really cool because I have like gained a lot of love for the clients that I see, and it's made me like very happy to be able to sit there with them and talk with them. I mentioned earlier as well, like it's just a really rewarding feeling, and I
Hmm.
leave my site feeling very emotionally like happy, and I'm just like, wow, like I love this.
Yeah, like that feeling of, yep, this is where I'm supposed to be. I feel good. Like
Yes.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to. This is part
Hmm.
of my experience in life as needed to what comes next and stuff.
Exactly, yes. And also
It,
just being able to understand myself better as well. Because what we do with that site is we offer like classes. So we do
oh,
anger management classes and then like a family parenting class.
hmm,
And so I had to go through the book myself before I started actually teaching the class. And going through the book like on my own time as well kind of made me understand myself more, understand why I am the way that I am, I guess, kind of like getting that therapeutic understanding of like, oh, okay, like this makes sense.
yeah, yeah. No, and that's something it's required, for us. And I'm completely with you. I understand you 100% what you're
Yeah.
saying. It's like in order for us to talk about, talk is cheap. So, I mean, we could talk all day long, right? We can have all these nice words and everything, but if we don't really understand like what we're talking about, if we don't
Yeah.
really have, kind of like the concept, like a good stable, like this solid concept of what it is and what we're delivering. Yeah, I mean, I guess most people won't know what we're talking about to begin with, so it'll be
Hmm.
good enough for them. But like, it's not fair, to just give them that when we could give them so much more. So I'm
Exactly.
with you, just kind of like to be able to be knowledgeable, to a certain point, of like what you're talking about, and
Hmm.
to like feel. Because honestly, to me, that's something that's been big. It's like it gives you confidence. That's what I feel
Yeah.
like it gives you. How about for yourself? You feel like all this knowledge. What has it done for you?
I think the confidence is definitely there too. Of course, I will go in and feel super nervous before a session, but
Uh,
like I have that confidence like once it actually starts and I'm like, okay, like,
yeah.
yeah.
So how do you prepare? Let's see. How do you prepare? Give us some advice to all of us that get nervous before we go into sessions or before we go on this podcast, before we get on this mic. Give us some
Hmm.
advice. How do you calm your nerves? What do you do?
For me, I think like I try to do like deep breathing. I'm like trying to take into what I'm like teaching my clients. I'm like, all right, deep breathing, try to do that. I like relax a little. Um, I do have coffee beforehand, which probably isn't the best idea because I think it makes me more nervous.
Okay.
So yeah, coffee drinkers out there, maybe don't drink coffee before.
It
Yeah.
balances me out though. I mean, for
I mean,
most of us,
maybe.
balances out. It's
Yeah.
like it's like it's actually the caffeine doesn't elevate, it just more of like kind of just balances you out. You're like, oh, okay. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah, that's good. That's good. So like today, like I mean, me and you were talking, before we start, like I shared with you, like I honestly do get nervous every time,
Mhm.
even though this is what like the 16th or 15th episode. I still get a little bit of butterflies. I still have to, even before we talk, that's why when you
Yeah.
see me like kind of like not saying anything, I'm just processing in my head.
Honestly, same. I'm like, sometimes when I'm nervous, like I'll just sit here for a cool minute.
So like before we started, you saw me, I was just being quiet and I was just because I'm running through my head kind of like what I'm going through and I'm just all right, you got it's just going on and stuff, but it's like it's beautiful because I think it's good, it's normal and
Hmm.
it like makes this exciting for me,
Yeah.
that there's emotion, there's feeling in this, it's um like I know I might say a word or two wrong. The accent might come out here and there, something happens, but it's like it still feels good because I feel like I'm enjoying this, I'm having fun. That's why it's at this point now and it's still going. It's because, I don't just do this just to do it. It's because like I enjoy doing it. This is like
Yeah.
for all the causes and everything that it's doing for everybody else. For me, it's like therapy for me, It's like
No,
personal
yeah.
therapy for me.
Yeah. And I know that you said too that you'll like do like that. Oh, I'm good. I got this, so that could be like a tip too, where it's like bringing that positive self-talk for yourself, can also be helpful, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when times get nervous, I'm getting a little nervous about our tests that are gonna come up soon. Not soon, but they're creeping up slowly. So I'm starting to get a little nervous on that. But yeah, like overall, I mean, when you're like at your site, like before you go into sessions, like what do you right before like you start one, like what do you do? How do you get your game face on?
Yeah. I think honestly, yeah, positive self-talk has to come in where I'm just like, okay, like I'll be good. I got this.
Uh,
And then because like we do teach the classes too, I will like just overlook the material that I'm going to go through for the day, and just review it the night before as well. Like I'm looking at what I'm going to talk about in class, as far as like the material that we go through.
mhm,
So that's very helpful too, because then I get there and I just feel a lot more prepared.
mhm.
So yeah, I make sure to have breakfast. I'm like,
Yes,
I have breakfast. Gotta have food before.
got to cover all those areas, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and all that helps you, right, to just deliver. And then when you deliver, like your stuff is like good, huh? You deliver like grade A or grade B. What was how's the stuff you deliver?
I don't know, I guess in the middle.
And in the middle,
Gotta
stop
stay
it.
humble.
Like,
Gotta stay humble.
gotta stay home, but you gotta own it. You gotta own it. The A stuff, right? The A stuff. No, it's beautiful, right? Because I think like those things that you talked about, or like just it would seem like it's so it would be kind of generic, you would say, because it's what you have to do. I mean, if you want to be good at something, you're going to study, you're going to prepare yourself, you're going to be like, ready, like, like mentally and like just calm and like you're ready but like to actually do it and to actually have a plan for it and to actually be part of your process, that is awesome. That's a really good thing to do. I personally don't do that all the time. So I'm listening right now. I'm taking advice. I'm taking it in. I personally don't do that all the time.
Well, I don't do it all the time either, so not all the time. Most of the
Uh,
time, probably, but
yeah,
there's days.
just days. Oh, I laughed too hard. My seat sank. Okay.
Oh god.
Um, but yeah, no, okay. So, and it kind of sucks because I'm gonna tell you that to me is a challenge sometimes because I mean, it's not like I don't read. It's not like I don't have knowledge of like what I'm talking about, but sometimes I do kind of fall a little behind and I just try to pick up from what I read last time and try to use that to cover up for what was supposed to happen now. And it happens so most of the time, when that happens, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
nobody, and that's God, I think that was like a confession. I just kind of threw it out there. Oh my God. But that's kind of like something that I struggle with sometimes, that I guess because I just have so much to do. Like I just kind of maybe or maybe not skip a little bit here and there, but I
Mhm.
kind of still use what I've studied already. So meaning like, I'm not that far behind. So, it still helps me kind of push me to the next week.
Yeah.
And that's my challenge. Those are my challenge. Well, that's one of them. Yeah, I have a lot of challenges, but that's the only one we're talking about today. But how about yourself? Tell us about what are your challenges, either at school or at work or at the practicum site.
Yeah, I think for at school, I'm kind of on the same boat, like with what you were saying, where it's like I will fall behind at times. And it's just all about like catching up and really trying to prioritize like what I'm really supposed to be doing. Because I think it can be easy to kind of just get like distracted by other things, especially if it's a long day at like practicum site and you have an assignment, but you also want to watch Netflix. I mean, which one are you gonna choose? Obviously
Well,
Netflix.
that is such a hard decision, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I'm just like, no, the homework can wait. Like, yeah. And that's probably like one of my, I would say, challenges is like really like prioritizing stuff like that. Because to be honest, I think that I do pretty well under procrastination, which probably isn't good, but I don't know. It's,
A bit.
yeah.
But listen, to me personally, what I think is that sometimes procrastination and all that stuff to a certain level is actually kind of healthy because it's the only thing really that's keeping us and maintaining us sane, allowing there to be some type of sanity still in our lives because we're dealing with so much. We're dealing with so many of the dynamics of our lives. It's just like all over the place because we're trying to cover so much at once that is just like what keeps us balanced, like what that's something they don't teach us.
Yeah.
They teach us everything and they say, here, learn this, learn that, learn this. But you know what they don't teach us? And yeah, I'm gonna say it out there. I'm gonna say it, quote that right now. They don't teach us how to be able to balance everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something I guess is more like you got to figure it out on your own because we're all different, right? But like what can you do, to like balance all this pressure, to balance all this, not just of like how far you want to get, how good you want to get, how high is your ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
how good you want to get at your job and all that stuff, right? But also maintain, for not all, but for some, also working your own job on the side and have all these other responsibilities and all this stuff. It's like, how do you keep that all sane,
Yeah.
balanced? Like what
Yeah,
do
no, I
you
agree. I agree with that. I think, yeah, it's not something that's very much talked about. And like you said too, like sure, we're all different, but sometimes we need that little push of like, here's how to stay balanced.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm,
agree.
I'm serious. That's like kind of like something that I feel like now at this point of like grad school, at this point of like coming, I feel like it's like that, like, since we're like doing practicum and we're at our sites and like now it's a little bit more kind of heading downhill a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
For me after this semester, my next semester is just practicum 2 and I think it's pseudo pharmacology. No, one of those pharmacology. One of
Okay.
those. Yeah. And then that's it. And that's it for me.
You're
So
almost done then.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. So it's like it's hard to, like I mean it's exciting, like the practicum site, kind of like where I'm at, kind of the clients that I'm seeing, everything that I'm doing, working with kids, working with adolescents, working doing couples therapy, just all over the place. It's amazing. But I don't know. It's like I'm starting to feel like okay, like where am I going next? Like what's the next step? Because it's like
Mm-hmm.
okay, I feel like I'm starting to gain a little bit of traction. I'm getting a little bit okay. So what am I gonna do? Am I gonna try to stay here? Or kind of like all those thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah.
For yourself, what have you have going on in your mind so far, like now through your experience now at your placement site where you're working, where do you see yourself now coming in your near future?
So yeah, ideally, like I think working within this population is something that I'd want to stay with.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think it's a very underserved population. I personally don't know of many, facilities like jails that offer programming like that where they can get therapy while being incarcerated. Um, so it's definitely a population I would want to stay with. If not, I am also very like intrigued by eating disorders. So
Mm-hmm.
that's also something that I kind of would want to like start looking into later on. I know you have to get like separate certifications for that. That's something that I kind of would also be interested in, it's kind of just like expanding my palette, I guess, of like
Yes.
of gaining more knowledge within that community as well, like that population. But yeah, it's just, I'm just leaving it in God's hands, praying about it, because I know that it seems far away right now, where it's like, yeah, I still have time, I haven't graduated yet, but I know it's gonna fly by because this whole year has flown by. We're in September and I'm just like, well, where did
Yeah.
summer go? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. and it just goes by so fast. It's amazing. It's beautiful, but it's like, whoa. So,
Exactly.
like now what?
Yeah, I'm like, what happened to all the time?
Okay, starting to feel a little bit more pressure finishing one, but I have to start a whole other journey. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So kind of like with this podcast, right? So this podcast is for I'm going to say for us, for yourself and I, for our classmates, for our cohort. And then once we start even branching out more for fellow students that are going to be coming into this program, that are going to be listening to this and kind of to be able to get an insight of what this counseling psychology experience is. And for people that listen kind of like seriously, like around the world that are tuning in, just listening, I guess, to our perspective and listening to how we think and what are our thoughts and how we go, and it's just so beautiful to be able to have that ability to be able to share our personal experiences. So if you were to tell all these people some solid words of advice as far as either for study or for career choice or for personal life, whatever it is, what would be like the quote for Melissa Navarro? Like, what would be something that you would deliver that's like solid? That's like, man, Melissa said that. That's right.
Well, man, the pressure is
The,
on.
the pressure, that's the fun part, right?
Woo!
Pressure.
Let's see. As far as just like personal, like as an individual, I think really finding space to love yourself. I think that's a huge thing that like I've slowly kind of been going through like within this whole program is like getting to a point where like you really have that love for yourself. Like personally like going through my own therapy was like a really cool experience. And I think that kind of just was a whole like new open door for me, to be honest.
Mhm.
And I think that's a huge thing as far as like personal wise, like as your own individual, it's like prioritize your mental health for sure, prioritize yourself in a lot that you do and really find space for yourself, like find that love for yourself. And yeah, I mean, I think that's like a big thing because I think it's really hard to love yourself, especially like with society now as well. I think it's like super hard, and to be
Yeah,
able to get to a place where you're like, yeah, like I do love myself. I think that's really hard. And once you can get to that point, I think that's like it's a beautiful thing.
that is
Yeah.
very beautiful. That's solid. Um, Individually finding a space to love yourself.
Hmm.
That sounds good. Sounds good. Just to open doors for you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That was good. That was great. Well, thank you so much. Listen, Melissa, it's been a great session. It's been an awesome time here, be able to talk to you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you were able to see a lot of, you did a great job. You were comfortable. I mean, it was awesome. I kind of felt a little bit more something like you were leading this. It's awesome.
No.
It's great. It sounds like you were the host. Oh my
Oh
God.
God, no.
That is so awesome. But again, thank you, Melissa. Really appreciate it. Hope you have yourself a great one. And let's continue. Hopefully, let's see when we could do another podcast and kind of just kind of move on from there. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I look forward to all the other podcasts that you have. I know you're going to rock it. So I'm really excited to see what this podcast holds for you because it's exciting.
No, I will really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's for definitely to help everybody. It definitely helps me all the time. So this is for myself and for everybody else. So to everybody listening, again, thank you so much. Hope you have a great one. God bless. And listen, just sit, relax, and you know what? Let's just talk. And that is it for today.